I don't like winter. I don't like ice, slush, thinking about how I'm going to place my feet because I don't like to slip. I am not a fan of winter. However, I do like walking in the woods and in parks in the city during the winter. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I enjoy going outside in nature during the winter time. This is A Curious, Wonderful Nature, the show about discovering the joy and wonder of nature through looking at foraging, citizen science, folklore, myths, and also nature-oriented news items. I'm your host, Quinn. Welcome. So, I know I started off saying how much I really didn't like winter, and I don't like some of the inconveniences of winter, but there's also beauty in winter, and those are the things that I've learned to really focus on as I've gotten older. Um, I've said how February is one of my least favorite months, but at the same time, I've also found that February is very interesting in terms of the type of flowers the type of life that's around the dead of winter, but that dead of winter it's the moment before spring, so you kind of take the bitter with the sweet. So one reason I really like going outside is because it beats cabin fever. I don't want to stay inside and be holed up the entire time in a place that it's like dry and it's bad for your skin and you don't get any sunlight. It's worth going outside into the cool air and worth going outside underneath the sky. I find going outside is good for beating that cabin fever, being able to go outside, get some vitamin D, and all the other benefits that exist when you are able to go outside into a natural environment during a time when the weather is good, still exist during the winter time. It just feels a bit more brisk. I like going out into the parks that are nearby and being able to watch the sun across the park, across the land of the park, and to see the way that the light reflects. During the time when it's cold, you can probably imagine that a lot of people are deciding to kind of stay in, or at least if they're not staying in their homes, they're maybe inside in a cafe or something. But it's really very nice to be in a park where it's a bit more still than what it usually is during like the spring or the summer. It's really quite beautiful, and you get a chance to kind of enjoy a space that's not very crowded and kind of enjoy some of the calmness. And sometimes I do get to close my eyes and just listen to the wind. So that's one thing that you could do. You can go in and actually experience the park when there aren't any people there, or not very many people there. Come on, it really does beat cabin fever. I'm also taking the time to look for different types of trees. I'm right now looking for tulip poplar trees. I'm looking for different oaks and walnut trees, as well as going to enjoy the pine trees that they still have all of their pine needles. I'm looking for them for the spring and for the summer when, like for walnut trees, for instance, they will bear they'll bear fruit later on in the season. And for things like poplar trees, like tulip poplars, they will probably have some sort of morels around. It's good to know where they are, and it's good to be able to scout them before the season starts. So I'm using this time right now to kind of look at the trees. And I'm also trying to brush up on my tree ID skills, because when you know your trees, then you can kind of find out where all the other mushrooms that are related to, not necessarily related to the trees, but they kind of grow around the trees. They are kind of in a partnership or sometimes a parasitic relationship with the trees. So it's kind of good to know where those trees are, and not only the the actual trees, but also where some of the stumps are located, as well as some of the dying trees that are around as well. I'm going to put up on the screen the name of the type of tree that I don't know why I can't think of the name of this type of tree. It's like when part of the tree is gone and it's still standing. I'm gonna put it up probably right here, probably right here somewhere. So I want to make note of those because that's where a lot of fungi will actually grow. So I want to keep note of that for later on in the season, on later spring and summer. If you're interested in getting into wildcrafting or foraging for yourself, it's now's a really good time to kind of get into your tree identification skills as well. Because the winters aren't that harsh, I've been able to still see some things. Um, I'm, s- I'm always seeing turkey tails, and I haven't found any oyster mushrooms yet. Um, but I found this really interesting one called dire polypore. So I'm kind of looking just to kind of look, because it's more of like a discovery for me than just always going to gather. That's what I would suggest to anyone who's interested in starting, but they don't have someone to help them or guide them just yet, because I really wouldn't suggest you start gathering things right now to consume or use in your body unless you know what you're doing. And actually, I've kind of started to go into this already, but I'm just curious about what is growing. I'm curious about what is part of this cycle in the winter time, especially since this is a new city for me, where I am right now. And I'm not, I don't know what grows here. Certain things are very similar to what was growing in New York, but I'm not really sure about what actually is part of this landscape completely. The, there are a lot of things that are familiar, but um, there are some things that are not familiar. For now, I'm really interested in seeing like what is out there, um, what's popping up, and what is dormant. So again, it's that idea of discovery. I used to think that February was the worst month, and now I'm starting to feel like maybe that's not completely true, because February is getting towards the end of the dormancy. If you keep your eyes open, in February, towards the end of February, you'll start to see hints of those spring flowers. You may start to see some things popping out in through the snow. And those days towards the end of February, beginning of March, when winter is ending its grasp, you start to see the hope of spring, which is kind of one of my favorite seasons. Maybe February isn't so bad after all. So there you have it. 3 reasons why I get outside during the winter time. There are more reasons, but I'll just leave it at 3 for right now. What about you? What do you like to do? What type of natural elements do you like to find that you like to enjoy during the winter time? Leave a comment below. Again, this is A Curious Wonderful Nature. Please like, share, subscribe, and as I said before, leave a comment. Next time, I will be doing a video on some tools to help you kind of connect with nature, to kind of like find out different plants as you go about walking in different parks and different woods areas, because it's kind of good to know like what's growing around you. Be curious, stay wondering, and bye for now.